same rules if it's followed by another word. Now, with the alif maqsura, you've got to be a bit careful when you're stopping on a word which ends in alif maqsura. So here we have a word which is la yatgha. Now normally the gha would be too long, and you can see that with the small dagger alif, and they've put a madda on it because in the next sentence which follows, the first word begins with hamza. Now if you are carrying on, then the gha can be read as 4 long, okay, i.e. you're not stopping. However, if you stop, you must read the alif maqsura as 2 long, as you would normally. Okay, so you effectively just ignore the madda sign. So that would be la yatgha, and down the bottom we've got exactly the same, and they've drawn it with the small dagger alif, the madda sign, and alif maqsura. Again, the next word, they haven't drawn the hamzatul wasl, they haven't drawn the hamza on top of the alif. So rule there, if stopping, don't pronounce the madda, just keep the alif maqsura as 2 long. And that's the rule. When you stop on a word with alif maqsura, you always pronounce it as 2 long. Now we go on to the next rule, which is when you have a long vowel followed by a letter with sakin. And again, we said this includes any letter which is mushaddad, because a letter which is mushaddad consists of one letter with sakin and the letter with its own sound. And this is taken from Al-Fatiha, which you recite every day. And you'll notice in the prayer they recite waladdallin. So the dad with fatha is 6 long. Okay, so it's very long, and it must be kept at 6 long. And the reason here, we've got the dad with fatha and then followed by an alif, so normally it would be 2 long, but the next is lam mushaddad, so a lam which has got shadda, hence that lam itself would be broken down into 1 lam with sukun, sakin, and 1 lam with kasra. Now because the first lam is actually lam sakin, the long vowel before, in this case the alif, fatha and alif, will elongate to 6 long. So they've actually put the madda sign on the alif, so the dad, fatha, alif goes 6 long, and it's because of the lam sakin in the lam mushaddad. And down the bottom, same thing again, but they've drawn the madda sign, that's the Majidi script. So either if you have a long vowel sound followed by any letter with sukun or any letter which is mushaddad, it will always go to 6 long. Now the single letters. Okay, so you would have seen in some surahs like Surah Yasin that you have these individual letters at the beginning of the surah, and there's only a few surahs. So these letters that you will see at the beginning of only a handful of surahs, okay, they're known as the single letters. The name of the letter is pronounced and not the sound. So we'll cover this in another lesson completely to do with these letters. However, we need to cover some of them now because they carry also a madda sign, and we need to know how to recite those. Okay, so here we've got an example from a very well-known surah, which is Yasin. Now the 2 letters here are written at the beginning of the surah, and with these single letters they effectively are pronounced as the name of the alphabet, not the sound. So here you cannot say Yasa, it would be Ya and Sin, so that's both the letters, the name of the actual alphabet letters themselves. Now with some of those letters they're pronounced as 2 long, and some of them are pronounced as 6 long. If they're pronounced as 6 long, they will carry the madda sign, and there's the rule, or there is no real rule. You just have to know there's a certain letters are always 6 long, and they will always carry the madda sign. The other ones will be too long, and sometimes they don't carry any sign at all, and sometimes they'll carry the dagger alif. So the first example here of Yasin is the ya with no sign on it at all, i.e. no vowel sound, so we know it will be too long. And the second one is the sin with madda, so that's going to be 6 long. So when you hear it recited, they'll go Yasin. Okay, the second example there is the Majidi script, so they've put the dagger alif in there because again in Majidi they try to help you along a bit. That's indicating too long, and they've got the madda on the sin, so that's still 6 long. Okay, now these single letters are actually called the muqatta'at. Okay, so they're separate letters, or the single letters, and we'll cover that in a separate session. Just for our knowledge though, these letters that you can see are the ones which will be written on their own. They're pronounced as the alphabet names, and these ones out of all of those single letters will carry the madda sign, so these ones are always recited as 6 long. Okay, and again they'll always be in the first part of the surah, as in the first sentence. Although they're separate letters, they don't actually make up any specific words, and they're just recited according to the length. So these ones, so there's about 8 of them there, 8 letters, which all will carry the madda sign, both in the Uthmani and the Majidi script, and you just recite them as 6 long. But you recite the name of the letter, not the sound. So here you'd say qaf, not qa. Okay, so it'd be 6 lengths. Qaf. So in conclusion, we understand what the madda sign is. We know how to apply the madda sign to the long vowel sounds. We know that some of the single letters will carry the madda sign and how they are read, although we'll expand on that in a letter specifically on the single letters. We understand how to read the alif maqsura if it carries a madda sign, and we did it in the middle of a sentence and at the end of a sentence. So that is the end of that lesson.